And then the last thing with the changing of the energy, the instinct, the reflex is to say, well, I need stuff to go well, and then my energy will be good. Then I'll be optimistic and happy.
Yeah.
But how do we shift from that? Okay, well, things aren't going well. That is making me feel this way. How do I shift my feeling to get me into that next level of energy that I want to be in?
You're very good, Dr. Hubert. That is exactly step 4, which is, what can I change?
Welcome back to the Veterinary Business Accelerator. In part 1 of this 2-parter, we learned to hear the taps from the universe telling us to pay attention. In this one, Sam shares his strategy for doing something about it. He walks us through how to actually shift your momentum when you're stuck, and why the answer is almost never more willpower, but a structure that beats willpower every day of the week. And he gives us a really simple framework for making decisions so you can stop overthinking yourself into paralysis. Okay, let's get to work.
There's 2 things you can change. You can change your thoughts, or you can change your environment. So let's work through this, which will answer that question there. Okay. If you change your thoughts, hey, things are actually great. What can you be grateful for? Here's all the reasons I should be happy. I'm asking things to change what I'm thinking or what I'm focusing on. And if I shift my focus to what's great about life, then instantly that'll shift my perception, which will shift how I feel. And then how I feel, so this is the law of attraction, I'm higher up the vibrational scale, which means that'll increase my results. So I think that's the more advanced or more evolved approach. If you go and speak to, monks, etc., this is the approach they're going to talk about is, being in love and gratitude. That's everything creates from there. But who's found, I have, I'm sure you have, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, and hear other voices going, yeah, but no, you're not, here's why, etc. So to force yourself to a high level of elevation, of vibration, it's like it's hard work and it's consistent. It doesn't seem to last as long. So if we actually reverse engineer it, you can do it through the other thing, is if you change your result first, it'll change how you feel, which change your perception, which will change your thoughts. So both ways, like all roads lead to Rome. The reason I say this is when you're designing what can I change, your target is I'm going to feel better. And you can use something, you can think your way through it. You might use meditation. You might use a specific, you're always going to use a practice or something that'll help you shift. But I don't think there's one size fits all. And I want people to think about what works for them. So for some people, meditation works fantastically to shift their thoughts. For some people, taking massive action works really well because they're confident once I do that, I'll feel differently. And just the fact by taking action, you feel better because you're doing something. You're not focused on what's wrong. You're focused on what can I do about it. That's still lifting you up higher on the vibrational scale. So it doesn't matter which route you use, I don't think. The answer is, what have you got to do to feel better? That's the answer. So in this situation, we sat down and we said, righto, well, what can I change? And so let's pick for an example, we're living Groundhog Day. We said, well, how do we stop living Groundhog Day? And I said, well, what about if and this is where blokes are really good because we go straight into problem solving. And I got a problem, let's not talk about it, let's solve this thing, let's kill it fast. And so I said, what about if we sat down and wrote down 50 things each that we could do within a 1-hour radius of where we live? That'd be fun, exciting, they're the sort of things that we like doing. Now, my wife will find different things to me. So it's not all going to be yeehaw Samland because that's going to be going great. I'm going to go and drive a V8 car on a racetrack. I'm going to go and jump out a plane on a parachute. I'm going to go surfing. It's going to be action, action, action. My wife's going to be, let's go and have lunch with some friends and let's go and take the dog for a walk in the Springwaters, the beautiful, go and see the falls. And so I think what we're doing is really just opening up our mind to going, okay, what are my options here of what I could do differently? So it's really a collection process of, without judgment, not trying to find the solution. It's going, what's a whole bunch of different solutions? And then we'll wheedle down from there, well, which one fits best? So the outcome of what can I change is you really sitting down and playing detective of I can change my thoughts. Well, what would I need to do to change my thoughts? Or I can change my environment. Now, sometimes when we're coaching practices, we see people that are in a spot and literally it takes us to give them permission to say, what if you sold your practice? Now, that's a tougher decision to make. We'll talk about their next decision making, like which of these things should I do? But what's really important is being able to realize you have options that will change how you're feeling. You've got options. It's when you feel there's nothing you can do about it, that's when you feel trapped. And that's when you'll move down that emotional scale. That's when we'll go from frustration to kind of even anger or resentment. And then next thing we're in blame. And then, you can start to talking into like I'm feeling depressed now. It's just because we feel trapped. There's nothing we can do about it. So the goal of what can I change is to realize you've got a whole pile of options here. So number 4 is what can I change? What can I change in my thoughts? What can I change in my environment? So how can I approach this differently without this is the thing? Don't look at the solution. Just look at all the options. It's like a brainstorming really. And this is what's really cool to do with someone else because they'll have some ideas and you'll have some ideas and suddenly you've got lots of ideas.
Can I add a thought? With the what can you change? And as you say, sometimes it is actually something in your life that needs to change, a situation, a decision, a business decision. But something I've been thinking about a lot and experimenting with a lot is actually just neurochemistry. And you said it with thoughts, change your thoughts or change your experience. But I had an insight a while ago that so much of those feelings of meh or feeling stuck or everything sucks, my business sucks, my relationship sucks or anything, a lot of that is so neurochemistry influenced. So you talk about energy and all those things, and a lot of people listening might go, oh, that's a little bit woo. But a lot of that is actually just chemicals, right? When you talk about your friend with a new relationship, that's just because he's on performance-enhancing drugs. It's called oxytocin and adrenaline and all that sort of things. He's on internal performance-enhancing drugs. And the actions and the things that I could do to optimize that, just the perception, chemically alter the perception and the feeling associated with the actual situation. And that is, again, back to sleep, back to exercise, back to going for a surf. I've become increasingly better at identifying the taps, but sometimes the taps are just to say, yeah, you're not doing those things. And that's often the first step to say, before I overhaul my business and change my website and divorce my wife, maybe I should just go for a run, get some good sleep. and very often that is really the solution.
Well, when we talk about energy, you can't separate energy and chemistry. It's the same thing. Our emotions is literally a chemical release of a certain thing. But what happens is when it's releasing, that the feeling that you're putting out will emanate a certain energy. So the neurochemistry of dopamine and you feel great and awesome is very different to, we've got cortisol, I'm stressed and I'm worried. It's a different frequency that's being emitted. So 100% agree with you. They're the same thing. They're interlinked. Yeah. So literally you could say, what have I got to do to juice myself with the best chemicals possible to feel as good as possible? The outcome is always feel as good as possible. So coming into step 5, you're really intuitive, Hugh. You're really working through my process naturally. Step 5 is I need to decide, I've got all these options. Which ones am I going to do? Now, some of them, the insight I would have here is, as humans, don't rely on willpower. Don't rely on willpower. If you're going to start doing some things differently, have a structure, design a structure that means you'll just have to do them anyway. So, for example, I went, okay, well, what's some structure I could build in that I'm going to start feeling better? Now, you and I obviously connect on surfing. You go out for a surf, you come out, and suddenly everything feels perfect in the world. You just have that kind of that grounded, contented feeling, and you've moved into contentment, optimism, those sort of things after a surf. You feel like everything's good. Why? Because the chemistry's been produced. Yep. But we go, oh, should I go for a surf or should I not? That's relying on willpower. And sometimes I'm a bit tired, I'll just pull the dirter up a bit. Oh, it's a bit cold, I won't go. So we're relying on willpower, and generally as humans, we'll win sometimes, but mostly we'll get beaten by willpower. So designing a structure that means that it takes that decision-making process out. So I said to my mate, How about every Thursday, we just go 5:45, irrespective? And that's a simple thing called structure. So now, I got to get up. Why? Because my mate's going to be there. I'm going to leave him sitting there by himself. Now we go, okay, if it's crap, we might go for a paddle, or today we didn't, but we went for a coffee. Outcome was the same. I'd got some variety. I'd hung out. It was great. Thursday nights, I played tennis. Calling it tennis is kind of probably being a little bit generous to myself, could be another way we frame that. But really, what do we go for? We go because it's a bunch of people who don't take tennis very seriously, so we don't care how we play, and it's just a good laugh. And it's locked in and everyone just goes, weather permitting. So start thinking about using structure to design your week, that you just have to follow the plan there that's set out. As a result of that, and all of a sudden my thought pattern is thinking completely differently. So it's identifying those, but don't leave it to willpower. That's the big killer.
I'll add, remove as many decisions as possible. And when you do need to make the decisions, make it when you are in the right frame of mind. But it's the same point that you just made. But
yeah.
If it's 5:30 in the morning, trying to decide then whether to go for a surf or not, well, we know how that's going to go. I've started doing my exercise first thing in the morning, which I absolutely hate, but I get really good energy from it. It changes my chemistry for the day.
Yeah.
And I have to decide before I go to bed, what exercise am I going to do? Am I going to gym or am I going to go for a run? If I'm going to gym, what am I actually doing? And I have to take my little shoes out of the cupboard and put them there.
Nice.
If not, if I wake up and go, oh, should I go for a run or neither, stay in bed is the decision.
Well, you've got to have a trigger. So your trigger is you take the shoes out and put them next to your bed. Having a trigger is also a sign of sort of commitment to yourself, which will tend you to hold yourself to account.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit around decision making, because what we talked about, shall I go for a surf or go to the gym? These are not big kind of decisions, but for some people to change their environment can be really quite big, scary decisions. You talk about relationships. Should I leave my relationship? Should I, change practice? Should I buy the practice? Should I sell a practice? Should I put on this other that? Sometimes these decisions are bigger decisions. And what can happen is, because they seem a bit more daunting, we will avoid making that decision. So the taps just keep getting bigger. So we'll put off that decision making. And generally a more daunting decision is generally because there's effort or consequence as a result of the decision. There's money involved, or what's the outcome going to be? So really it's effort, dollars, and outcome are the three things. If we perceive that there's higher values of those three, we'll kind of put that decision off. And the classic situation that I see is, so for example, if someone reaches out because they have a desire to get a different result in their business. Now, desire can be caused from pressure. So I'm in a situation I don't really like. Maybe I'm overwhelmed. Maybe I've got a team that's, I'm not really happy how that's going. Maybe I don't have enough finances. That's pressure that can create desire, and it's desire to get out of that situation to a shinier pasture. The other thing that can create desire is opportunity. So this is not the person that's struggling. This is the person that's going, things are going really well, but I'd really like to do this and this and this. So as long as someone's got desire, that's normally what gives them the momentum to do something like reach out to me. And I have a chat to them for a while, listen to what's going on, understand their situation, be very clear, yes, we can help, or no, we can't. If we can, here's what's involved, boom, 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 this is what it looks like. And then generally in those situations, most people will do this. Okay, can you send me something? Now, send me something is a way of saying, I want to slow down the process here. I don't want to make a decision here. And I say, great, what do you need? And then I'll always book in a time. Okay, we're going to make a decision in 3 days or 5 days or a week, whatever you feel fit. I'll reach out to you then. Now, what happens between, I think it's a good idea at this moment in time, it feels right, and a week later, your head gets involved in this decision-making process. And what happens is your gut actually knows what's the right next step for you. And when you don't trust your gut, everyone's done that. I thought it was a good idea, but it felt a bit weird and it blew up on me. So what often happens is at the time, if it's sounding right and feeling right, you'll have that kind of buzz. You're like, yeah, this feels good. So if you're making a decision on something you need to change in life, you've chatted through, you've worked your way, it feels right. but then you delay making the decision, what happens, your brain gets involved. Now, your brain, which is 2 million years old, is designed to stop you doing things that's going to hurt you. So it starts the what if game. And this is like, should I put on that other vet? Should I buy that house? You know, these big things. Your brain starts the what if game. And what I see, and this is the way I see it, is that people then a week later, if they either don't want to do something, they've said, oh, no, I don't want to do it, or they don't want to make a decision, they ghost you. They'll become non-responsive because they're avoiding making the decision. And avoiding making a decision is the worst thing anyone can do. Once you've got your action items of things you could do, you need to pull the trigger on stuff. However, I want to give everyone a framework of how you make the right decision or making a decision to speed it up and make it easier. Because we're going to have to realize that our brain, in a way, is going to overthink stuff and start working against us. And it'll give us a million different scenarios of shit that could go wrong, and it'll stop us actually moving forward. So we just keep walking around in quicksand. So there's only 3 types of decisions we really make in our life. There's small decisions. These are your day-to-day. What's my logo going to look like? What's the newsletter? What shirts should we dress everybody in? What's the different protocol we're going to do on something? These are small decisions. And here's the good news. You only need to get 25% of those decisions right in order to live a cracking life. There's medium decisions. Medium decisions are a bit of time, a bit of money. And a medium decision is things like, should I put on that other vet to give us, you know, if you're working too hard, should I put on that other vet? Should I buy that car? Should I do that extension? Should I go on that course? You know, should I get coached by Sam? A bit of time, a bit of money. The good news is you only need to get out 50% of these right in order to live a cracking life. Then the third type of decision we make is what we call life-changing. These are big decisions. These are, should we have a child? Should I marry this person? What's my profession going to be? They're going to push you one way or other in your life pending these bigger decisions. So you want to get about 70% of these right to live a cracking life. So how do we go about it? Well, your small decisions just make on the spot. Don't and ah. Go, which one feels right? Okay, what do I think? I need a little bit of information. Bang, done. You don't have to sit and worry about getting the perfect decision, because that's the thing that'll stop people and keep people in meh, is that they're not making decisions on stuff. They're getting a million decisions they haven't decided, so they're in decision overload. The second one, medium decisions, we need to get a certain amount of information, but then we need to commit to, I'm making a decision on this date. Okay, I'm going to decide, if I'm going to put on another vet or if I'm going to do that course, what information do I need to go, it's a yes or a no? And you never get 100%. You don't know what the vet's going to be like. You don't know if you put the practice manager, what they're going to be like. You have to be okay. You're only going to get 50% of these right.
Have you heard of the metaphor for the 3 decisions? Hats, haircuts, and tattoos. That your life decisions are it's either a hat decision, a haircut decision, or a tattoo decision.
I love that. Yeah. So what I see and what I'm conscious of is, what do I need to do? What actions have I got? And what sort of a decision is this? Is this as you say, am I divorcing my wife and selling the business and going to renounce the children's heritage? They're life-changing. And when you look at a lot of the decisions that will change how you're feeling, you've got option. A lot of them are small and medium. So big decisions, yeah, you want to put a bit of thought in that. You've got to really run with that and do some research into it. But what I see is people spending too much time doing too much thinking, too much research around medium and small decisions, and they don't make a decision. And I think the big killer of a great life is when your head disagrees with your gut and you trust your head. And that's been my experience. So when I've got this feeling of I'm feeling meh, I trust that it's there for a reason, and I know I'm going to have to do some things differently, and I know I'm going to have to make some decisions. But what I understand is that A, I can't stay there because I'm not going to allow meh to continue. And B, I'm going to have to have decisions to make. I'm going to trust my gut in those decisions. If my gut says yes and my mind says no, it's a yes. If my gut says no and my mind says yes, it's a no. Nice when they both line up and it's an easy decision.
I actually wrote in my newsletter about when I read about the hats, haircuts, and tattoos, and I spent a bit of time thinking about, well, which decisions are which. And one thing I concluded, opinion, of course, but also some of the tattoo decisions, there is very often the option of trying out a couple of hats or maybe a haircut before you commit to the tattoo. In other words, do I do this massive thing? Yeah, I think I do, but I'm not 100% sure. But because I'm not 100% sure, I do nothing. But there are actually things you could do that's not as high consequence. So I gave the example of, should I become a veterinarian? Or should I specialize? I'm a vet, but should I specialize? Kind of a tattoo decision. But you can start a residency. You can do something. And then if you go, I don't like this hat, take it off, move on.
Yeah.
Before you actually have to do the whole bloody thing.
Yeah. The answer is just take the next obvious step. Just do something. Just don't stay static. Don't accept meh, because meh is not meh. Meh is like taps get bigger and bigger and bigger until you eventually pay attention.
Yep.
So that's it. That's sort of the steps that we've got. So I'll quickly flip through those steps. Is the process
let me do it. Let me see if I got it.
You do it. Okay. This is your test, Dr. Hubert, to see if you've been paying attention.
Step number 1, identify. Recognize and identify the taps. Don't just ignore the fact that the mere feeling or something's happening.
Why am I feeling this way? Yep.
Second one, go deep, analyze, explore. Okay, I've identified something's off. Let me find the evidence about what is making me feel this way.
Yep.
Why is the tap there?
Let me understand more. Let me do some tests on it. Yeah.
Number 3, do I want to be this way? So I've identified I'm uncomfortable. I've looked at the evidence, and now I can go, is that actually okay? Should I just accept what I have? Or is it no, I actually don't want to feel this way. If I've decided that actually I don't want to feel this way, start changing some things. Start by changing your thoughts and changing your results. And that involves modifying your energy, your neurochemistry. Start acting on these things.
Step 4 is, what can I change? What are my options? I can change my thoughts or I can change my environment. We just want to write down as many options we've got, because the person with the most amount of options will feel more in control.
And then we have our options in front of us. So number 5, we decide which are the ones that I'm actually going to start pulling some levers on. And in that, don't leave it up to your willpower to do it. Create a structure, create a system that is going to keep you accountable to actually do the things that you decide on.
That's it.
Number 6, commit, then act.
Yeah. 6 is just do it. It's just, and really put a trigger in place, which is really structure. So you could probably call it 5, because 5 is like, what am I going to do and what's my trigger? You put down, what's my structure? You put your running shoes down. I organise to have a surf. The basic things is design the structure so that you just are following the plan. You're not having to think about it on the day of what I should do. Yep.
I like it. Thanks, Sam. So how are you feeling after working through your step for your meh?
Well, it was actually great because I understand it. And as soon as you understand what's going on, you just feel more in control of it. And then I realised, great, we've got this and this. So to be really honest, I'm going to go and have an annual checkup, have a blood test. Yeah. B, locked in for my weekly surfs. C, going to sit down and do the exercise and go, what's all the cool things that we can actually do around here? And then book in set times that we go, right, we're doing fun stuff at these times. So, yeah, I've gone from meh to rainbows pretty quick.